Good morning and welcome to TVP World News. I'm your host, Diana Skaya. And we begin in Georgia, where major clashes between protesters and riot police have been taking place on the streets of Tbilisi after the ruling party postponed talks on EU accession until 2028. Now, our TVP crew world was there and witnessed firsthand the fighting and pushbacks in Tbilisi.
We need a European future. They just took one guy, my friends and my best friend's brother, and we're asking the reason why they just took her brother, and they have no any answer. And they're telling, get out of here or I will arrest you as well. We will not surrender, so our future is in Europe. So I'm not afraid, I'm here, and I was asking them, so take me as you take that boy. Like, if you take this boy, we are working with me, he was innocent, and why are you letting me here? They want to kill us, not that enemies were just taking Why are you taking?
Georgian President Salome Zurabishvili has been calling on the opposition and its supporters to continue protesting the results of the latest parliamentary elections since the day they were announced. Now she shows no intentions of stepping down as president when her term comes to an end in December.
A national consensus has been reached on the most critical matter. No one can take away Georgia's independence. No one can return Georgia to Russia, and no one can deprive Georgia of its will and its European future. I want to tell the public now that even here, with the president, currently the only independent institution and the sole legitimate institution left in this country, a national consensus has been achieved. On Sunday, there will be a gathering here around me dedicated to serving you, with representatives of the public on one hand and political parties on the other, to jointly manage the political aspect of the process you are leading outside, whether in the streets or in the various spheres of this society. We will accomplish this together. Together, we will represent the future we are on the verge of reaching through new elections, a new Georgia that will reclaim its European path, its independence, and, most importantly, its free path to development, a path we will not surrender to anyone.
Now moving on to Romania, where 18 million Romanians are eligible to cast their votes in today's general elections. Now, polling stations opened at 7 a.m. local time this morning and will remain open until 9 p.m. this evening. Our correspondent Pavel Chaskovsky is on site. Good morning, Pavel. What is the latest situation unfolding in Bucharest?
Well, I'm standing in front of one of the polling stations in Bucharest, Romania, where people are casting their vote in the country's parliamentary elections. It is estimated that more than 1 million Romanians have already cast their vote, among them the most important politicians in the country, including the current Prime Minister, Marcel Ciolacu, from the Social Democratic Party, the biggest party in the country. And upon voting, Ciolacu said that he votes in order for Romania to stay in the pro-European NATO path, and he chooses peace over chaos, stability over chaos. Now, Elena Lasconi, a surprising runner-up in the first round of presidential elections, also voted. She voted in the city of Câmpulung, a city which she remarked has a long anti-communist traditions, and upon voting she said that she votes for Romania to remain a free country. the winner of the first round of presidential elections, Călin Georgescu, also voted. He is said to be anti-NATO, pro-Putin, pro-Russia candidate, and upon voting he said that he chooses peace over war. Now the polling stations will be open until 9 p.m. local time, and then some initial results of the voting should be known. Back to the studio.
Thank you, Pavel, coming to us live from Bucharest in Romania. We'll keep coming back to you for more updates on the elections. Should Ukraine enter NATO, it expects to be protected by the East Shield, says Bogdan Nahailo, editor-in-chief of the Kyiv Post. Now, this Polish defense initiative, announced earlier this year, is Warsaw's response to threats coming from Belarus and Russia's Kaliningrad region, and has been hailed as one of the most significant investments in security and defense in the country's post-war history.
We have doubts in Ukraine, and I'm the chief editor of the Kyiv Post, so I'm reflecting the mood there. They're all for Poland doing its best to protect its borders. This is logical, this is absolutely necessary. But Ukraine doesn't want to be left out as a potential buffer zone and open to further Russian aggression. So while we welcome this, we would like that line of defense to be extended further east and to be applicable in some future on some future occasion, also to Ukraine through NATO membership or buffering up the front line.
Russia launched yet another attack on Ukraine last night, targeting the Dnipropetrovsk region. 4 people were killed. A shop, an apartment building, and a house caught fire in the village of Tsarichanka as a result of the Russian strike. Now, video footage found on social media shows a large fire engulfing a house and ambulances with emergency lights flashing. Now, 21 people, including an 11-year-old boy, sustained injuries and were taken to the hospital. 6 of them are in serious condition. President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed his condolences to the families of the victims. Now, following Kyiv's decision to decriminalize desertion from the army for first offenders, granted they return to the front lines, dozens of former soldiers are picking up their weapons again. As Ukrainians are close to entering nearly 3 years of constant war, morale among soldiers has been reported to be lower than expected.
As Kyiv fights for its right to complete sovereignty from Moscow, whose troops relentlessly throw themselves at towns and cities across Ukraine, the armed forces of Ukraine struggle to keep their soldiers from leaving their posts. One such soldier is Oleksandr, who gave up his rifle and uniform to rejoin his family without permission to do so from his superiors. For that, he could face up to 10 years in prison.
My brother is schizophrenic. His condition had become dangerous. He had become a threat to my neighbors. So I went home. Apart from my brother and mother, I have no one else.
Oleksandr is not an exception. Sergei, a soldier who used to serve in the artillery unit in Kramatorsk, left the army due to chronic back pain, as well as difficulties in his marriage. He was caught during a random documents check a year later. To avoid persecution, he will return to his post.
I am not a robber, a bandit, or a murderer. I will go back to fight. To be honest, I have no regrets. I lived a little, and now my one wish is to see my mother and sister.
Following a wave of desertions, the government in Kyiv decided to give first offenders a second chance. They can completely nullify their sentences if they return to their unit and fight for Ukraine. Higher-ranking officers in the army agree that things need to change, and that more medical attention and longer periods of leave could deter people from deserting.
And moving on now to Serbia, where ministers from the ruling movement of socialists, founded by Aleksandar Vulin, have submitted to the Serbian parliament a draft law on the register of agents of foreign influence. Now, Bojan Torbica, the leader of the party, has explained the aim of the law, saying that Serbia has been flooded by various professional activists who are fighting for everything except for the interest of their own country. Now, according to the law, agents of foreign influence are considered all associations and non-profit organizations that mostly finance or otherwise help other countries, their bodies, international and foreign organizations, foreign nationals, or registered non-governmental organizations financed from abroad. Now, the draft law provides for a ban on carrying out activities if a nonprofit organization acts and carries out activities and is not registered in the Register of Agents of Foreign Influence or has not submitted an application for registration. It also provides for penalties ranging from 17,000 to 40,000 euros. Moving on to the Middle East. In Syria, rebel forces have seized control of much of the country's second largest city, Aleppo. Its ally, Moscow, has reportedly told Damascus that it will provide more support within the next 72 hours. Analysts, however, are weighing how extra demands on Russia's military resources might affect its war effort in Ukraine.
Rebels cheer as a statue of President Bashar al-Assad's brother is torn down after a lightning offensive in northern Syria. It rolled into the country's second largest city in the early hours of Saturday. The surprise attack coming 8 years after Russian and Iranian-backed government troops forced them out. Syria's army says dozens of its soldiers died trying to fight the advance, which is being seen as the greatest test of the al-Assad regime in years. Analysts say Russia is scrambling to support Syrian forces.
I think the whole offensive, the whole gains would have not been possible if Russia intervened at the beginning fastly. It seems that Russia, because the Russian army has moved and transferred the most advanced air warplanes to Ukraine, now they were not able to intervene straight away.
According to Reuters news agency, Moscow has told Syria that additional military support will begin arriving in the next 3 days. Russian and Syrian jets have begun bombing the city, which could well lead to significant civilian casualties.
Now they just started to intervene just now, after 4 days after the armed groups were able to control the second largest city in Syria. I don't know if they can really be able to push them out without making huge damage for this big city, which there is about 5 million civilians are in the city.
If the rebels put up a strong resistance or take more territory, President Putin could be forced into making further commitments to al-Assad. This would place greater strains on a war machine that's at full stretch fighting in Ukraine.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has nominated former Republican House staffer and staunch supporter Kash Patel to serve as FBI director, aiming to replace Christopher Wray, who was appointed director by Trump back in 2017 and has 3 years left on his 10-year tenure. Now, in a post on social media, Trump praised Patel, saying that, quote, "He's a brilliant lawyer, investigator, and America First fighter who has spent his career exposing corruption, defending justice, and protecting the American people." Now, Patel has long been seen as one of Trump's top picks for a prominent national security role. During Trump's first term, he served in a variety of high-ranking positions in the U.S. defense and intelligence agencies. Families of Israeli hostages held by Hamas in the Gaza Strip have organized a protest in Tel Aviv, demanding a deal to bring back their loved ones kidnapped in last year's deadly October 7 terror attack.
Hamas released a video of my son, Idan Alexander. He's an American citizen, also Israeli citizen. And on the video, we saw Idan speaking directly to Benjamin Netanyahu and ask him to make a deal and to release all the hostages. He also called President Trump to do whatever he can to bring them home. An hour after, Benjamin Netanyahu called us and told us that he embraced us and is with us, with the family on this toughest time. And he told us that he's going to do whatever he can to bring the deal and to release all the hostages. He told us this is the time to do it, and he's going to do it.
We don't have time, and our 101 hostages are underground in the tunnels of Hamas, and they don't have time, and we need to close the deal as soon as possible.
And that's all for this edition of TVP World News here this morning. I'm Diana Skaya. Thanks for watching.